Hi, this is Coralla Ficklin at CorallaFicklin.com, WelcomeNetwork.com, Welcome.com, iStudyGuides.com, iStudyCards.com, Anywhere, INIWHER.com. We also have this the language sites EnglishBegin.com, Explain, and Explain. It's hard because it's a play on words. It's ASKPLAIN. It's a play on words, you know, ask and plain, like explain. Then if you want to download any of my writings, any of my books, you can go to Pedians, PEDIANS.com. Now, I've done quite a number of videos. I've done them on idiomatic expressions, quite a few, on verbs, for example, the verb to get, the verb to have, the verb to be. Done quite a number of videos on pronunciation, minimum pairs, words that almost sound alike, explaining. I've done videos explaining homophones versus homographs versus minimum pairs, on the sounds of different vowels, and on quite a few on Spanish translation. And I'm going to do some videos on French translations. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different, something I haven't done before, and I'm gonna see how I'm able to do it and see if it works in a video. One of the reasons that we English speakers, because this is really for English speakers, I mean non-native speakers might be also interested in this, but I think this is especially important for English speakers, that one of the reasons that we have problems with our own language is that we don't realize that our language is really a number of languages in one. And just to put it in very general terms, one part of our vocabulary is Germanic, and Germanic is broken down into languages we have language influence from Northern Europe, for example, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, from German itself. That's why they're called Germanic. They're all Germanic languages. And for a long time, English was only a Germanic language. Then 1066, well, before that, you had some Latin influence because of the church. And you had some French influence, maybe very little, but some. But basically, it was a Germanic language with a touch of Latin influence because of the church. Then you had 1066, the Norman invasion, or the Norman conquest. Then French slowly began to come into the language. And depending on the period of time, a little bit of French came in or a lot of French came in. Then you had the Renaissance. And the Renaissance, Renacimiento, which literally means the rebirth. Then you had just flood of Latin coming into the language. And that's the part, Latin, and now you had classical Latin, classical Greek, or I should start with Greek. You have classical Greek, because from Greek, you had Latin borrowed a lot from Greek. So you had classical Greek, classical Latin, medieval Latin, or vulgar Latin. And that's the part of the language that we have problems with. That is, we English speakers. Because, see, that's the part of the language that you normally learn in school. You know these long list of words you have to learn that are boring. And then on those standardized tests that you have, and you'll say, I've never seen that word before. Because, see, that part of the language really has a lot to do with your social economic standing in the society. If you have parents who talk to you quite a bit, who've maybe had a certain level of education, and you talk about certain things, and they're very careful about your vocabulary, you'll learn a lot of these words that are more Latin based or Greek based. You'll learn these words naturally, right? But if you haven't had that opportunity, if your parents haven't had the opportunity of very good education, and let's say for whatever reason they're not able to talk to you as much, and you can't get to as many books as you would like, that part of the language remains very foreign to you. So when you're being taught these words, you say, why do I have to learn these words? I never use these words. But the dirty little secret about English is the following. The more educated you are, the less Germanic words you use in your vocabulary when you're in a formal or semi-formal situation. And a lot of the words are not just words, they're words, but the way that you learn these words is that they're fragments. Let me put it this way. They're fragments from classical Greek, from Latin, not so much Anglo-Saxon, huh? From classical Greek and Latin. And these fragments are called either prefixes, roots, or suffixes. And the way you learn these words, now you could sit down and try to memorize all of these words, which would really be ridiculous. Doctors don't do that. Lawyers don't do that. Okay? What they do is, because they have to learn a lot of these words for their own benefit, in order to practice medicine, what you do is you learn the meaning of a prefix, or of a root, or of a suffix. Let me give you an example. You have a word, but in front of it you have the letter A. Now A is the prefix. Now you have to understand how words are formed, and you have to understand how to break a word down in English, okay? So, it's a prefix. And A, the origin of A is Greek. And it means, oh, by the way, when I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the website itself. But here I'm looking at the book that I compiled of all the different prefixes, roots, and suffixes. Let me keep looking. I'm looking at the clock to make sure I don't go over. Because what I'll just do is go on to the next tape. And it means without, lacking, or no. So, if someone is asexual, okay, that's different than being bisexual or heterosexual or homosexual. Asexual means nothing. You're nothing. I shouldn't say you're nothing, but you're not attracted to anyone. A bisexual is attracted to men and women. That's bi, too. So both. A homosexual is homo, means the same, like homophone, same listening, same sound. Bear's a homophone, right? Homo, same. So if you're homosexual, you're attracted to someone of your same sex. Hetero means mix, different. So if you're heterosexual, you're attracted to the other sex. Okay? So, do you see? If you understand the prefix, in this case, or the suffix, which is at the end, or the root, which is usually in the middle, then you can understand a lot of words that you generally, depending on your socioeconomic level, don't use, or only use very rarely. Okay? Now, to some people, these words are very common. So what I did was I went through the dictionary and I just looked for all the prefixes, suffixes, and roots. But I also looked to see for words. Let's say there's one word that's used a lot that has a particular beginning. Even though officially it's not called a prefix, I called it a prefix so you can get the meaning of it. All right, I'm out of time. I'm going to do another tape on this, but you should come in and look at the book and download it if you want to. Corralafficklin at corralafficklin.com.